Live 2018 TEDx in Brampton, the first ever. I'm so excited to be a part of this and honored to be one of the first ever to speak at TEDx in Brampton. It's part of my journey. We're gonna have some fun today. Woo! When was the last time that you walked into a Tim Hortons or a Starbucks? When you looked around the room, what did you see? Did you notice that a lot of people sat there drinking their coffee and on their phone, not talking? The reality is, in those moments, I have asked myself, is communication broken? And I had to go back to my childhood. And I want all of you to do the same for a second. Some of you will take a little longer, so I'll give you some time. Go back to your childhood and think of a moment when you were with your friends. That moment when maybe 4 or 5 of you would often gather together and play. Go out in the park, maybe on the street corner. What was the beauty of that? To me, when I look back at my childhood, I remember those times when I would sit there and play road hockey. Anybody remember road hockey? Yeah, I know the little kids won't even know what that is. It's not a video game. The fact is that we used to play road hockey, and that was the greatest moments of my life, because in those moments, we would often sit down and we would have communication, conversation, talk about their likes and their dislikes, the things that made them who they were, their unique qualities, our differences. But the fact is, we were talking. And I love the fact that I was able to learn more about them. Anyone here have childhood friends that they still have to this day? Oh, that's amazing, isn't it? Because you guys talked, didn't you? You did. The beauty of talking is that it allows you to learn more about individuals. It allows you to grasp who they are. It allows you to learn what it is that they like and what they don't like. But more importantly, it allows you to bond. And so I want to take this opportunity to talk about myself and why it is that I felt communication was broken. My child, 23 years ago, I'll let you sink that in because I know I don't look it. 23 years ago, my daughter was born, my oldest. And I remember sitting in the hospital. The doctors turned to me and said that she had a 10% chance to survive, a very rare case. And I sat there with my then girlfriend and I wondered, how can we deal with this? And there were many people in our lives at that time that would sit there and communicate with us and be there and support us and help us through what we were going through. I was only 22. Now you can do your math. And the funny thing is, as she developed, as she got older, one of the things that I always said I would do as a father was constantly talk to her, constantly get to know her, constantly let her know how much I loved her. And we would have moments where we would sit for hours at a time, just talking. She would tell me about her days. And then she would do something that we've always done, and she still does to this day. She would play with my forehead and ask me, how come you have so many lines on it? And she would play with that. But that was our way of communicating. It's funny because I look at how she is now and I say, wow, what has happened? We are in a world of technology. It has sped through each and every one of us, and we have had to catch up to it, so to speak. And what's amazing is now that I look at my oldest daughter, and I say to myself, where did our communication go? Because now we communicate through text. Parents, is that how you communicate now? Yeah, some of you? It's amazing. We've lost the interaction towards our children. We've lost our interaction, well, towards people. And to me, that's the problem right now that I was facing. Inside, I was facing the dilemma of whether or not our communication was broken, or was it just me? My father started our business 34 years ago. And I used to love the fact that my father was a very talkative individual. He was quiet sometimes. But one of the beauties of my dad was the fact that when he would meet people, it was with a handshake and hello. And then, of course, subsequently, a communication would start, a conversation would start with them. And it was so beautiful to watch him. He showed me the beauty of talking. That when I took over the business many years later, my dad was very reluctant to let go. I tried to bring changes because I too was trying to understand whether or not it was me that was broken, or did I need to learn how to communicate differently with the times. And so I introduced different concepts, different technologies. My major was in marketing. So when I went to my dad and I told him, Dad, you know what, the old plan that you have with the business, well, it's a little outdated. But can you imagine what my father said at that moment? My dad looked at me and said, are you crazy? Are you crazy? No. This has worked for all these years. Communicating with people works. And I told him again, it's not that it doesn't work. It just needs to move to the next level. And in that moment, my dad gave me the opportunity that I never thought I would get. He gave me the keys to his baby. And I started to work diligently and hard to develop Caesar Transport into a company that can move forward into the next generation. But in the back of my mind, I would always often say to myself, did his way not work? Or was it that I was trying too hard to introduce new ways of communicating? Think about it for a second. Talking, texting, and emailing. We live in a world where this is less, this is more. I go back again to my childhood. And I remember my good friend, Jay. Jay and I would often talk for hours. And I would sit there and I would know everything about him. And then I lifted back to my daughter and learning about her and all that she did, all that we were able to talk about. And now, I talk to a phone. Do we see something wrong with that? Really? It's strange, isn't it? That's the way we are now. Which makes me wonder to myself, what do I need to do differently? And then I had a conversation with my youngest daughter, which put everything back into perspective for me. My youngest daughter is 13. She is a ball of fire. But the other day we had a conversation, and she came into the room and she sat down beside me and she said, "Dad, can I talk to you?" I said, "Sure." And she said to me, "Why don't we talk as much anymore?" I didn't have an answer. And I realized in that moment, it's not that communication is broken. It's that I've forgotten that we need both to work. We can have the emails and texts, but what I realized more than anything else was when you have that human interaction with somebody, you get to know their ins and outs, their likes, their dislikes, their uniqueness and their differences. Because in those moments, that's when we are human. And in technology, yes, we can find out what you need today and when you need it. We can find out if you are going to Starbucks or if you're going to Tim Hortons. What time will you reach there? But you will never know, how do you feel? And that tells me that communication, well, it's fine. I turned to my daughter at that moment and I said, "Well, I guess you and I will have to start conversating some more." And the smile that came upon her face told me that that was what I needed to do from this point on. We're not wrong, ladies and gentlemen, for moving on with our times and learning about the technology. No. What we are wrong about is forgetting how to talk to people again. So what I want you to do is turn to the people you see beside you who you don't know and just say hello. My name is, and see where it goes. Because I'll tell you right now, by the time this is over, maybe 70% of you will walk out of here and pull this out first and do this. I'm hoping to reverse that you walk out of here and put this away for just a little while